Okay, I think we're good to go.
Great. So thank you so much, everyone. And thanks for your patience. Apologies for the late start. This is the third meeting of the Judicial Compensation Commission. I'm the chair of the commission, Megan Casey, and just wanted to briefly recognize the other commissioners and staff who are on the line. Commissioners, we have just going clockwise around my screen are Raphael Santini, Victoria Fretwell, John Wassilissen, Chanel Mason, Monica Mitchell, and appearing by phone is Carlos Williams. And then we have the help and support of staff of DLS, John Edwards, Scott Benson, and Jesus Garcia. So thank you everyone for being with us. The goal of today's meeting is to discuss and hopefully finalize our recommendations for this 4-year cycle, FY27 to FY30. We've had a chance over the course of the last 2 meetings to have really helpful information from members of the judiciary and DLS. We've received very helpful information in writing from both members of the judiciary and DLS. And now also with the passage of some time between the last meeting and now, have a little bit more information about the budget picture for at least for FY27. So with that, I think I thought we could start with sort of what I think is easiest, which is I think where based on our prior discussions, we all have agreement. The judiciary had asked, had submitted a proposal to increase via stipend the annual salaries of each county administrative judge who sits on a circuit court, each district court administrative judge, and the chief judge of the appellate court of Maryland by $7,500 per year in this 4-year cycle. Based on our discussion at our last meeting, I think most of us are in support of that proposal. I supported and would vote in favor of it, and so I wanted to go around the circle and get everyone's perspective on that, and thought maybe we could do that first and put that issue to bed before moving on to the other salary recommendations. So I'll start with Raphael.
No, I support it. Just want to clarify, it's not part of their general salary. It is a stipend, and that'll be put in our recommendation.
Correct.
I support
it. Vicky?
I also support Megan.
Thank you. John?
It's my understanding it'll be $7,500 a year times 4, so it'll be $30,000 over the 4-year period.
That's yes.
Okay, I support.
Thank you. Chanel?
I support it.
Thank you. Monica?
Yes, I'm in support.
Great, thank you. And Carlos?
Also in support. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. And that is with the understanding that it would be a stipend, that it would be $7,500 annually for each of the 4 years. And based on the information that we've received, it applies to, it's 24 circuit county administrative judges. There are 12 district court administrative judges, and then the 1 chief judge of the appellate court. So that's 30, do my math, 37 judges in total. Okay. Great.
And just to, I don't know if this is necessary to note, but if someone ascends to that position, then they would be eligible in the off time, right?
Yes, that's a helpful point. Exactly. That's what I was envisioning, Monica, that if during the 4-year period, there may be a changeover in some of those roles, that someone is eligible for that stipend when they are in that role and not eligible for that stipend when they are not.
Great, thank you.
Just one other question, Megan, that $30,000 over 4 years, would that put them then out of scale with other judges?
You mean in Maryland or in other states?
So in the Maryland, the salary structure that we've seen, starting from Supreme Court down, would that throw it out of kilter? Would they be making more than other judges then?
So at their same level, yes.
Okay.
And when we asked them, my recollection is that when we asked them why 7,500, it was because it was sort of midway in between the judges at a particular level and the judges at the next level. So if we're just looking at FY 2016, for example, circuit court judges receive a base salary of $214,433. So if every county administrative judge on the circuit court were to receive 7,500 more than that, that would still put them less than sort of the next highest level, which is the associate judges of the appellate court.
But after 4 years, wouldn't they surpass them then?
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be.
I thought it was a $7,500 raise, and that raise would be $7,500, not compounded, but that would remain in place for 4 years.
That's right, not compounded.
Okay, I got it now. Thank you. I misunderstood.
No, not at all. Okay, let me ask John and Scott, do you have, and Jesus, do you have the information that you need to be able to write up that portion of the recommendations?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, so if there's no other discussion on that point, we can move on to the next part of the recommendations, which is our recommendations for the base salary of the judges over the next 4 years. So in advance of this meeting, I had circulated a Excel file to the commission and DLS staff just to kind of, mostly for illustrative purposes, because I think sometimes looking at something in an Excel file helps to put things a little more clearly when we're talking about numbers and how different factors can influence things. So, and the proposals that I had there made some assumptions. One assumption is that there would be some COLA for state employees in FY 27. And as we've seen from just information that the governor's office released yesterday, it's not certain, but it does seem likely that there will be a COLA of as much as 2% for state employees. So that seems like a safe assumption. I was estimating 1.5% in the Excel file I sent around. So that seems like maybe even a conservative estimate at this point. And the reason I did that is that everyone remembers that the way this works is that if we make a recommendation for a salary increase that the General Assembly adopts, then the judges in that year will get that increase, but no COLA. If the recommendation that we make and that the General Assembly adopts is 0, or if we make a recommendation and the General Assembly reduces it to 0, then if there is a COLA in that year, the judges will get that COLA. So you might remember that the judiciary was their proposal was 0 increase in FY 27 and FY 28. And so if we adopted that, that would mean that if there were any COLA in either of those years, they would get that COLA. And then they were, of course, proposing some increases in FY 29 and 30. So let me just give a couple of more explanations of why I was proposing what I was proposing. So just to go on the record here, since we're live, my proposal was that we recommend 0 increase in FY 27 so that the judges would get whatever COLA would be coming to state employees in that year. That in FY 28, we make our recommendation contingent, that if there were to be a COLA of 1.5% or greater, the judges would get that COLA. But if there were to be a COLA of less than 1.5%, the judges would each get a $2,500 increase. And then my proposal had us in FY 29 and 30 giving the judges each an increase of $10,000 in each of those years. So the reasoning that there's sort of a couple principles at play here. One, backloading the increases into years 29 and 30. And the reason I was thinking that is because that is what the judiciary understood from the General Assembly that the General Assembly would prefer. So sticking with that seems to make sense to me. Also, having a 0 increase in FY27 seemed to make sense since we felt safe assuming, and now with additional information, we can feel even safer assuming that there will be some COLA that year. Having a contingent recommendation is something that I think some on this committee were interested in and favored, and so I wanted to explore that as a possibility for FY28. And then finally, for FY29 and 30, the reason that I was proposing 10,000 and 10,000 in each of those years was that was something that both Chanel and Monica brought up as a possibility in our last meeting. As you might remember, that the overall increase for each judge from FY 22 to 26 was 40,000. And so the thinking here was that would be half of that. So as something more in line given the state budgetary picture. So the overall principles that drive me, and I'm about to open it for discussion because of course I want to hear from all of you, are to be sensitive to the state's budgetary picture, of course, but also recognize that our judges deserve an increase, and I think a meaningful increase. I think that one thing we should be looking at is what is the percentage increase. Even though our judges have specifically requested we not increase by percentages, that we increase by dollar amounts because they don't want the gaps between the different levels of the judiciary to widen. And I respect that. And so I think that's what we should do if at all possible. I think we should be thinking about sort of what is the overall percentage increase from FY26 to when this ends. And, you know, to me, thinking about it in terms of having somewhere between a 2 and 3% increase each year is sort of how I'm envisioning it. That's kind of, I think, what feels appropriate in other sectors for a COLA. And so thinking about it that way, that if at the end of this, our judges are somewhere between, you know, 10 to 12% increased in their salaries at the end of a 4-year period, that's sort of how I was envisioning these increases. So with that, let me open the floor, and I can go around again, or if people want to go ahead and chime in, please feel free.
Hey, this is Carlos. I just want one clarification. 1 second. So what are we saying the increase is if we go with, so it's kind of hard to do without it in front of me. I wanted to know how much are we saying that if we went with what they asked and divided over 4 years opposed to doing the backloading, how much per year would that be? And then the question would be, how much of a percent increase would that be? Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, say the first part again. If we did what? How much?
If we went with their original recommendation of backloading it, but I'm saying now, let's not backload it, let's take it and divide it by 4. How much per year of an increase would that be?
Got it.
If we took their original recommendation and then divided it by 4, what increase would that be per year? Percentage?
So that is the information that that John and Scott just sent us yesterday. So
Yes,
let me
okay.
pull that up.
And I know it's going to be different for each level of judge because of the cost of their income is different. But
right. Right. So
but if it's close to what COLA is, then that gives me some solace.
Right. So yes. So that is it is different for each level of judge. And if everyone, I know for those of you who can have it in front of you, what it looks like is somewhere between 2.5% and 3.4% per year, depending on the level of judge and the year.
Yeah, I was just going to say I did a quick calculation, and it looks like on average it's about 3.1% per year on average, but your range of 2.5 to 3.4 is accurate. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I asked that question for this reason. So I personally, I think looking at it this way, of taking the number that they gave us dividing it by 4, and giving it out over the 4 years. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. What we're doing is guaranteeing that regardless if we know what the fiscal constraints of the state are, they're going to get above COLA or above. So right now, let's say they get 2% COLA this year. Okay, so we give them what they ask for. They'll get 1.5% increase in their salary above what COLA will automatically give them, which is a good thing. And that means each year we guarantee that they will, if they don't get COLA, they're going to get something, and potentially get a slightly higher than COLA. And so at the end of the time, then they're a little better for the wearer than they would be.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
So it does make sense. And the one factor to consider with that, though, is that the General Assembly can reduce whatever recommendations we make. They cannot increase them. So if we were to say, we would like you to give the judges, so they're recommending a $27,500 increase, or they're requesting $27,500 per judge over 4 years, with just, if we were to divide that, it's $6,875 per year. So if that's what we say we want, the General Assembly could say 0 in year 1, 0 in year 2, 2,000 in year 3, and 4,000 in year 4. So, I guess what part of my thinking is that we don't have complete.
I recognize that.
Go ahead.
So I do recognize that. I'm sorry. Yeah, I do recognize that they could do that, but I think the way I see it is that I think unless they're in a dire situation. So even if they reduce it, they're less to reduce it unless the state is in fiscal shambles, right? And even if we went with 0, they could still. I mean, they can't reduce 0 from 0. But no matter what the situation is, whatever we recommend, they can reduce. So by us getting the recommendation out there and putting the onus on the General Assembly to reduce it, I think we'll be in a better position to at least put them above what average COLA is going to be, 43%.
So, no, thanks, Carlos. So am I understanding you that your preference would be to take what the judiciary proposed, which is they would like an increase of $27,500 per judge, keep that increase, but divide it over 4 years so that it's $6,875 per year?
I do, because I think it's much more palatable over 4 years than it is for an annual budget of that amount in the last 1. And even if we say let's make it a round number 5,000, let's figure out what the percentage of their income that would be, and make sure that it's above what COLA will be, because we would need to put in a clause in there saying either that or COLA. But I want to make it as less complicated as possible. Take what they gave us, make the recommendation, and then if General Assembly wants to reduce it, they can. But at least I think we will have done the due diligence to make sure that these judges get some increase in their salary over the next 4 years consistently. And I think it'd be easier for the General Assembly to swallow annually than it would be in 2 years, or over 2 years.
Understood. Thank you. Chanel, I know you were looking at the averages. Do you have thoughts about what Carlos said or what I said originally, or really anything on this topic?
Yeah. So originally I was actually in support of what you proposed in the email. But then I saw the note from Vicky, I believe, where you were concerned about the backloading and the budget. So I had to be reminded of the budget looking pretty dismal further out. And then in listening to Carlos, I think that it might be best to spread it over the 4 years. Because when I think about the backloading, we don't really have a strong case for why we should backload, other than this is what they propose to us. So I don't know, outside of what they propose, I'm not sure what that business case would be to backload it. So I think I might be more swayed towards the spreading it over the 4 years. Now, in terms of the amount, I still am believing that we might need to cut it in half, but I was about to just play with the numbers a little bit just to see if we cut it in half and said 20,000 over 4 years instead of 27,000 over 4 years. Does that, is that worse than 1.5% per year? So I wanted to play with that math a little bit.
Okay,
So come back to me in a minute.
that would be helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
So Megan, this
Yeah,
is
please, Vicky.
And following up on my response to your email the other day and concern about the last 2 years, I was going to come back today with just do 5,000 a year.
I see.
So that's kind of along the same thought process. I'm concerned if we do the 10,000 in the back years, those are the ones that are going to cut anyway.
I
So
see.
if the General Assembly is looking for something, that would be the first thing that they'd go for, and they might just eliminate it to zero, and then that doesn't help us out at all. So if we did it kind of even-handed, we might have a better chance.
That's helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that. Monica or John?
I think I'd like to hold off and hear Chanel's math first.
Okay, okay. So Raphael?
Yeah. I think we should take what the judiciary wanted and spread it over 4 years. I don't know what logic it is to reduce whatever amount. If you're going to say we're going to reduce it to 20,000, well, why don't we reduce it to 15,000? Where's the logic? Where are you getting these numbers? The judiciary gave us a number that they thought it was appropriate. I'm of the opinion it's really important to spread it out so the judiciary understands and appreciates that they're getting money every year, which they deserve. I am worried if we backloaded like it was indicated for 10,000 in year 29 and 30. I think the legislature will probably cut that more, and they'll probably get less if we do all the numbers. I do want to hear the percentages that Chanel's working on.
Okay. Very good. John?
I think I've heard some concern about the legislature cutting some stuff, and I don't know whether the legislature gave Raphael, I don't know whether they gave the judiciary that dollar amount or maybe that approach. So I'm not really sure how that went, but to me, I think the safest thing to do to make sure that it doesn't get cut, that they get something every year is to give them the same COLA that every state employee gets, because the legislature is not going to cut the COLA at all. They may cut it back. They're not going to eliminate it, and that would guarantee that they got something, 2%, whatever, every year. It may not be exactly what they were asking, but I think it removes on these really difficult times with the fiscal outlook and the uncertainty of federal support, that they're going to have a less chance of getting a cut and more of a chance of some increase, albeit maybe less than what they were hoping for. I think it'll be a more reliable recommendation that the legislature, I think, would go for with a little more confidence than it would if we try to get a little fancy with the way the numbers are striking so forth. I just think it blends in and it looks like it's a similar type of increase. So my recommendation would be to attach it to the COLA for the state employees each of the 4 years.
So while Chanel's continuing to work up the numbers, John, we had talked about the idea of contingent recommendations.
Mhm.
What if there were, you could imagine a contingent recommendation that would say that, let's just say FY27. FY27, our recommendation is that the judiciary receive whatever COLA is that other state employees will receive, unless there is no COLA, in which case we recommend that the judiciary receive X. And so we could write a recommendation in that way. Of course, the General Assembly could still cut it and say, let's say our X is $2,500, judiciary could say, the General Assembly could say, well, no, 1,000. But at least it would allow for the possibility that if there really were to be no COLA because whatever negotiations the executive branch is having fail, nonetheless, there'd be something for the judiciary.
But not all negotiations are with unions, so just be aware of that. Some of them are just the governor can order it and it's done. The only thing about that is it makes it sound as if the state feels they can't afford a raise for employees, why would the judiciary be singled out?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause on that. I think getting the 2% every year or 1.5% or whatever every year and meaning more reliable then would be better than sticking out like an odd number that's no one else is getting treated that way. It's almost like low hanging fruit. And that's why it just gives me some pause about that. So I did give some consideration to that because I thought you had a well thought through approach of attaching that. But given what I heard this morning, it actually makes me feel more confident that if we're concerned about the legislature undoing what we're recommending, I think there's less of a chance of that if it is something that's going to be across the board with the state government. So that's my feeling about it. And even though I think it does equate to probably less dollars than we would like to give, I just think that some recognition of the tough next 4 years that we're looking at in the budget forecast from the budget office. So I think to me that would be the most prudent way to move forward with it.
Thank you. Chanel?
Yes. So with the 20, if we did 5,000 per year over 4 years, then the average increase per year would be like 2.3% on average. So and that ranges from the lowest of 2% per year to 2.8% per year, an average of 2.3%. In total, I was also just looking at the total average increase compared to the 27 compared to the 20. The 27.5 or 27,500 increase in total. That total increase would be a 12.6% average increase. The 20,000, which is the 5,000 per year, would be at a 9.2% increase. So we'd be going down about 3%. If we take it down from 27,500 to 20,000. But in terms of COLA, comparing it against COLA, if the average with the 20,000 is around 2.3%, it still is above what that 1.5% of COLA that's going to be given out, as long as they stay. I don't know what the trend is with COLA, if they always give around 1.5%, but 2.3%, 2% would be higher than COLA.
Thank you. And I think for that information around what's been done in the past, that's actually also part of that same PDF that Scott sent us yesterday that has pages 2 through 3 show dating back to 2003 what every year the general salary increase has been. And some years, especially during the mortgage-backed security crisis in 08, 9, 10, there was nothing in some of those years. Most recently, it looks like in 23, it was 2%, in 24, it was 3%, in 25, it was 1%. I don't think we asked you for, Scott and John, like an average across the years, but just kind of eyeballing it over the last, I would say since 2019, it looks to be somewhere between 1.5 and 2, but I didn't do that calculation to confirm.
Quick question. So the number is right now on the table, 20,000 versus 27,000, correct?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. So I think you were saying 27,000 bumps up the percentage to how much, Monica?
Oh, Chanel, it was Chanel, Carlos.
Yeah.
So, Chanel,
So
sorry, Chanel, sorry.
27,000 in total, like over the 4 years, it's an average of 12.6%. But if you break that down per year, that's about 3.1% per year with the increase,
Okay, okay.
which
So-
aligns with, I guess, 2024 was, I think you mentioned 2024 probably was the highest out of those years you called out. Which must have been a much better year budget-wise.
That's right. So, Carlos, I'm sorry, did you have more that you wanted to add?
No, go ahead.
So I think, let me go to Raphael because, I saw you shaking your head. If you have thoughts about those percentages or the division of the.
Well, what I'm saying is, what I've heard, if we go by 27,000 over 4 years, the percentage increase is 3.1. But if we go by 20,000, the percentage increase is 2.3. Is that correct?
Yeah.
On average, yes.
On average. And that's, yeah, on average. So that ranges from, there's a low and a high with that, but on average, you're right.
Okay. So maybe we can do like a contingency agreement, like Megan said. Again, I'm okay with the 27,000. But I always worry about what the legislature would do. And I would say just spread the 27,000 over 4 years. Um, and then have a contingency if the legislature decides to reduce it, they at least get a COLA percentage.
I see.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So it's sort of the reverse of the contingency I was proposing to John. So it's like our recommendation would be, just to make the math easy, let's say, I know this isn't quite right, but let's say it's 6,500 in FY27. Unless, well, now this is a contingency. I don't quite know if we can do this, John. Right, it would be like 6,500 in FY27, unless you elect to reduce it, General Assembly, in which case reduce it to 0, so that they can get whatever COLA you would be available to state employees. That starts to get a little. Is that what you were thinking, Raphael?
Yeah, because I don't want it to be a 0.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't see a downside in saying the full amount, the 27 that they said, knowing that the General Assembly can adjust that. So because right now anything that we adjust down is still guesswork because we don't know, right? So if we say, look, for over 4 years, we know that it's going to be on an average between 3.1 or 3.2%. I mean, I don't care if we even go down a little bit less than that, right? But the bottom line is that there's no downside to giving them that, knowing that there's a safety net. The General Assembly can say, hey, we're going to reduce that. I guess, can someone tell me what are the thoughts on, do we not want the General Assembly to reduce it? Or, yeah, I guess I just see a safety net with the General Assembly saying, hey, guys, we got to reduce it down to 5,000 opposed to 60, whatever, 100 a month. And there's no harm, no foul there. I think we've done our job. And then the General Assembly has reset the numbers so it aligns with the rest of the state employees.
I think I heard Vicky saying before that the general, if we were to propose something like 5,000 a year, that the General Assembly would be more likely to accept it. And I hear you, Carlos, saying like, what is the down, if the General Assembly can reduce it, they have the ability to do that anytime. And so does it really, we've not sort of fallen down on our job. We should recommend whatever we think is best, with the understanding that the General Assembly can reduce it if they want. Vicky, do you think there's separately an advantage in trying to recommend something that we feel more confident the General Assembly will accept?
Well, I think we need to remember, for those of us that did this 4 years ago, we recommended 10 grand a year and they gave them 10 grand a year. There was no reduction at all.
Yep.
So they don't always lean in that direction of cutting. That we hear they're going to have a tough year. So we shouldn't be surprised. I'm guessing here, but I think that they might decide to cut year one and let the others go, or cut year 1 and 2 and let the others go, or vice versa. But I think if it's too much out of the realm of the 2% that they're giving the rest of the employees, they're more likely to cut it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just gut. It isn't anything but gut. I don't have any
Yeah.
data
Well,
around
I would
it.
say, well, I would say, just remember, because I think what you said makes sense. We've already done something to try to make it easier for the General Assembly to swallow by spreading out over 4 years. Remember, our goal was, instead of backloading it, saying that it's at risk if you try to give a lump sum in the back end, but if you spread it over 4 years, it's much more palatable. So I think we've already made some concessions to try to make it more palatable. And then the thought was, if we do it over 4 years with some caveats, like you said, if the General Assembly cuts it, okay, fine. They can cut it down to as much as they need to fall in line with what they need. But we would have made a recommendation, like you said, 4 years ago. We made a recommendation, they gave it. And it's all guesswork. I don't know if the General Assembly is not going to take 5,000 or 600, 700 or whatever we recommend at this point. It's still guesswork. And it's based on past performance of past history, not, known facts.
No, it's very true, and I will say I remember the judiciary saying, and this was supported by their documentation they submitted to us, that apparently 4 years ago when we did this and recommended 10,000 a year and they accepted it, is the only time in the history of this that they have accepted exactly what we requested and not reduced it at all. So I think chances are more likely than not that they will make some reduction, but I do hear you, Vicky, that if we try to make a recommendation that seems a little closer to what might already be in the budget for state employees, they would be less likely to reduce it and more likely to just accept what we've recommended.
Can I ask a question? Is there
Yeah,
anything in
please.
the rules that we can't speak to the deliberation that we've had where we can acknowledge that but for the current, budget situation, we would have preferred to provide a higher amount, but in light of it, just to ensure that we can continue to recruit strong judges and retain strong judges in light of the current budget sort of situation, this is our recommendation. Are we able to provide any level of context that might, help prevent any further cut if we are making a recommendation in line with what Vicky suggested?
So yes, I think that in the I think you all had a chance to see the report that the commission submitted last year. There's sort of a letter and some context that DLS helps us draft that would be able to give that context. Yes.
So what are we saying? 5,000 a year versus 6,750 a year, which they've requested.
That's right.
Those are the numbers.
Well, those are the numbers, but I wonder whether, Chanel, if you could we look at could we look at a midpoint between that, for example? Like, what if we looked at
Average.
like what 6,000 or something like that that's in between those two numbers?
Okay.
And looked at what. Go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Chanel, when you do that, I think it's important for us to look at the least the lowest of the judge's salary, because those are the ones that's going to be in the red zone. So it's fine to look at an average, but at the end of the day, we don't want our junior judges to fall below COLA. We don't. So I would just look at, we should base our number on increase based on the junior judges, not really the median or the higher, because those are the ones we want to have to come out of here that do better than anyone else. And that's kind of in line with what the judiciary said anyway.
Right. And I think mathematically that they tend to have a higher percentage increase because if the increases are consistent in terms of dollars across the levels, that increase represents a larger percentage for the ones who are at the lower end of the scale.
So I'm sorry, I'm battling a cold. So the midpoint between 20,000 and 27,500 would be 23,750,
Mhm.
which divided over 4 would be, it kind of gets messy. It's $5,937 per year.
You said
we could-
5,937.
Yeah,
So could we make that 5,900 or
yeah.
something? I don't know. I know we're
Yeah,
getting into
just to
like,
make it clean. I think, yeah, because they probably would wonder why would we do it like that. So if we did 5,900 times 4, I just want to get the calculation for that would be a total of 23,600.
mhm.
So, and the average percentage with that across the board would be 2.7% per year, which is about in the middle of the previous average was 3.1%, versus I believe it was 2.4%. I just overwrote my formulas. So it's about 2.7%.
Got it.
Are you able to see for the highest paid judge what that percent would be?
Yeah, for the highest paid judge, that would be 2.3%. And the lowest paid would be 3.3%.
You said 3.3.
Yep.
Okay.
I was thinking that maybe we shouldn't put a contingency in because that opens it up for the legislature.
Maybe we what? I'm sorry, Raphael should.
Should not put that contingency in about the COLA.
Yeah.
That'll give them the options. Like, what do you think,
I
Carlos?
agree.
Yeah.
I agree
think
100%.
that's true.
I agree because I think that you shine a light on something that doesn't necessarily you want to have a light shined on.
Right.
I think you just give the numbers as you have it, and you say this is what our recommendation is. If they need to do anything, they have to be proactive in doing it. I wouldn't necessarily shine a light on, hey, here's some other options.
Yep. I think that's right. I think Vicky or one of you said it something earlier that like make it simpler, and I think there's real value in that.
Okay, I'll change my proposal to 5,900 a year.
Okay. All right. I like that that the average
Yeah.
is still when you're looking at it in that using that number is under 3.
Right.
I think that's helpful.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
And that the junior judges actually get the greatest benefit because when you're talking about recruitment and retention, those are the ones you want to focus on. So that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yep.
So I think let me make sure. Let me outline the proposal on the table. So the proposal would be that we recommend a $5,900 increase to each judge at each level of salary each year over the course of the next 4 years.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Before we vote, John and Scott, do you see any sort of structural or technical problems with that proposal?
So just so I'm aware, so the proposal is an increase each year of $5,900, right?
Yes.
Okay, I don't see any issues with that.
Okay. Yeah, and I think to Monica's point about context, I think in the report that we provide with our recommendations to the General Assembly, we can make the point that we are sensitive to the budgetary state that the state is in. We wanted to divide it over 4 years to provide the opportunity for the judges to get increased every year rather than waiting until the end. We also wanted the judges to get something more closely approximating what we anticipate the COLA would be. And that's why there's some reduction from what the judiciary was itself proposing.
Also recognizing the unique features of a person being a judge, which is distinguished from anybody else's job.
Mhm.
And if you want to refer, Justice Roberts gave his annual report to the judiciary, and in that he talks about the threats to judges, and he indicated that in fiscal year starting October 1st of this year, the Marshal Service had to investigate 133 threats against federal judges. Now I know we're talking state judges. I don't have statistics for state judges, but he's talking about the threats. So it's a unique position. I think you should put that in the letter.
No, that's sobering and important to recognize.
So
I
can I
was just
call for
gonna
a
say,
vote?
I remember, I mean, I think the point was brought up last meeting that there are other state positions that, that also have some, dangers associated with it as well. Might it be cleaner if we just, you know, put in there to also balance the ability to recruit, and retain judges to these positions, or, maintain
Yes,
competitiveness of pay?
I agree.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Monica. And perhaps without being overly specific, expresses the same idea.
Very good.
All right. So any further discussion about the proposal on the table before we take a vote?
Ms. Madam Chair, can you repeat the proposal?
Yes. The proposal is that each judge will receive, we recommend that each judge will receive a $5,900 salary increase each year for the next 4 fiscal years.
So it's been decoupled from the COLAs for regular employees, right?
Correct.
So if
Correct.
so if this were to get approved, they would get $5,900 a year for 4 years. And in subsequent years, if there was no COLA offered for state employees, they would get 0.
No, the way
They would still get the $5,900 raise, but the state employees may get no increase because of no COLA at that time.
if this were approved, yes.
I just want to make sure I understood it.
No, that's right, John. All right. So any other discussion? All right. So I think we are prepared to vote. I will go around my screen once again, and I will start, since this was Vicky's proposal, 5,900, I will start with Vicky.
It's a team approach, but I say yay.
Okay, thank you. Yes. All right. So then going back around, Raphael.
No, I agree with the proposal.
Okay, John.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Chanel.
Yay.
Thank you, Monica
Yay.
and Carlos. Carlos, you're on mute. Carlos, can you hear us? Well, while we wait a second for Carlos, I also vote yes in favor of the proposal. That's 5 of us, so the proposal passes. I think if we're not able to get Carlos back between now and when we adjourn, we can follow up with him. Can we, John and Scott, by email? Oh, there you are, Carlos.
I've been trying to speak. Yeah, I've been trying to speak while we were still deliberating for a while. I don't know why this went through. I had one thing that I wanted to make sure we add to the language, though, and
Sure.
that was, and I think it's much more palatable because we say we divided over 4 years with respect to understanding that the state can reassess each year the fiscal standing. I think that's a critical statement more than anything else, because by us dividing over 4 years, that allows the state to say each year, where are we, opposed to having a balloon payment for the last 2. So I think by stating in your language saying that we divide this over 4 years, allowing the state to reassess each year where they stand fiscally and make the adjustments on this on this increase as they see fit. Does that make sense?
Do that.
So I actually don't think that that's how it works.
Yeah.
One of the challenges of the way that the law is written is that we have to make a decision now. We make a recommendation and the General Assembly makes a decision now for 4 years out. So whatever we propose, let's, we're recommending 5,900 per year. The General Assembly chooses this session whether or not to adopt that, and then that's what it is for the next 4 years.
Exactly.
That's my
Also, the
understanding.
General Assembly can't change it. They can't change it each year they wanted to.
Yeah.
No.
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 That's
And
why it's so difficult.
It's not just for this. They do it for several different salary groups, the executives
Officials,
and,
yeah.
The General Assembly.
yeah.
Vicky, is that for budgetary planning reasons?
I have no idea why it started that way, but it's been
Okay.
that way as long as I can remember.
I
Okay.
think it's because there's 4-year terms for the elected officials.
Yeah, that could be.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I vote yes on the proposal on the table. I think it's good to know that I thought that each year they were making a reassessment and decide if they wanted to cut or not. But you're saying that during this session, like 4 years, and they don't revisit it.
If they did it every year, we'd be back at this every year, Carlos.
I know. I do wonder if that's part of it is efficiency.
Oh, no.
John and Scott have lots of other work to do.
No.
So I think, so we have a vote, we have a proposal, we have a recommendation. John and Scott, let us know, please, is there any additional information that you need us to provide or anything else that we need to do?
I don't believe right now. We will get to work on the report and then get that, make sure the resolution gets in, and get that going. We will reach out back to you if there's something more that needs to come up on the back end, in regards to like drafting the report, but I think we're good. Everything we need to have now is good.
Hey, John, would at least the chair be able to see the draft report before
Right.
it's finalized?
Right.
I think we would circulate the draft.
Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. I
Thank
mean,
you.
yeah.
And that's to all of us, John?
Yeah, I think we would
Okay,
circulate. to all
okay. I
of
wasn't
them,
sure.
so
I mean, in
everyone-
essence of time, I'm happy with the chair laying eyes on it at least, but yeah.
I think that would be very helpful, John. I think I certainly would like to see it, and if you can circulate it to the other members of the commission so they'll have the opportunity to at least review it before it goes to the General Assembly, that would be very helpful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. Megan, one last question. And I didn't, maybe I missed this. In the language, did we say anything about it that we were being considerate of the fiscal constraints of the state, though, and that's why we divided over 4 years? Did we at least say that?
I think we should, yes.
Yeah, okay. And so that kind of supersedes what I was saying before then. So at least say something that we were acknowledging the fact of the matter that the state's fiscal situation and dividing it over 4 years we thought was the most palatable.
Yep, very good.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, unless there's anything from anyone else, let me just close us out by thanking all of you for your service. This was a tough year. Those of us who were here 4 years ago remember how much easier it was when we were looking at a surplus. This is a very tough year, and really appreciate the very thoughtful engagement by every member of this commission on these difficult issues. So thank you all very much for bringing your time and your talents to this process. It's really been a pleasure serving with you.
Thank you for keeping us on task.
That's right. You've been a
Thank
great
you.
chair.
Great chair.
Yeah.
Thank you all.